Welcome back, folks. Hope you're having a great week. Trash or treasure? Let's talk about old trains. Vintage Lionel trains are often misunderstood. Sometimes the most common looking item ends up being something special. Let's take a closer look at a few old school Lionel train sets, and then you can decide if they are trash or treasure. I like all of them. I treasure all of them. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. You can really smell the ozone in here. Nothing like it. We are going to look at some of the more common and uncommon train sets from the post-war era of Lionel. The post-war era spans the years 1945 to 1969. These years are often considered the golden age of Lionel. In Lionel terminology, the post-war era refers to the trains that were made right after World War II. In this video, I am only showing a drop in the bucket compared to all of the available train sets that were made from those post-war years. If there are train sets that you wanted to see and did not see them in this video, leave me a comment and let me know. Fun fact, all of the trains you are going to see in this video were made right here in the United States of America. This is a big factor in the collectability of these train sets because the original parts, components, and castings are long gone. The simplicity of running vintage O-gauge trains is something I really appreciate and enjoy. No circuit boards, no apps, it's just a timeless experience. Power up the transformer and go. A little analog in a digital world. Is posting this video on simpler times and simpler technology on the internet a contradiction? I'm getting way too philosophical for a toy train video. Time to dive in. I have 8 train sets assembled for this video, and I have them sorted by year. The first set is the classic 1949 Lionel Scout set. Lionel Scout sets were the beginner train sets of yesterday. These featured smaller locomotives and cars and usually included smaller 027 sized track. These are easy to handle, they're durable, and they run really well. This set is a great example of durability. 76 years young and still rolling. This little Scout set is by far the most inexpensive train set in my collection. In 1949, this train set cost $18.95. Could you imagine getting a train set for under $20? I could do a whole video on this Scout set, but we need to move on. Ironically enough, the next set in this lineup is one of the more expensive vintage sets that I own. This is the 1950 5-car freight set, led by none other than the famous Lionel 773 Hudson. The Hudson makes up a big portion of the value of this train set, and I do need to call out that while the freight cars and the tender are all from 1950, the 773 locomotive you're seeing is from 1964. I have attempted to buy the 1950 version a few times, but the eBay snipers keep getting me. In time. This train set cost $79.50 in 1950, which is significantly more when compared to the Scout set that we just looked at. Keep in mind that this set also included the operating cattle corral accessory to load the stock car. This train set was also considered a premium train set when compared to the Scout set. The proportions of these freight cars are larger when compared to the Scout set, so with the premium train sets, you typically got larger, heavier pulling locomotives, and the cars were proportionally bigger. Time to switch up the vibe from steam to diesel. This next set from 1953 includes the iconic Santa Fe F3 diesels. These are the diesels that have become synonymous with the name Lionel. This 4-car Super Speedliner set included the ABA diesel arrangement and silver aluminum streamlined passenger cars. Ugh, it's a mouthful. The price of this set was $89.50 in 1953, which makes it the most expensive set that we have seen so far in this video. But we've only looked at 3 of the 8 train sets. This is not the most expensive set that I will show in this video. That set is coming in just a bit. The Santa Fe F3 is a staple of the post-war era. If you are a collector, this is the set you want to have in your collection. If you have nothing else in it, the Santa Fe with these aluminum passenger cars. Moving on to another diesel set from 1953. This is the triple diesel freight set. This freight set is led by the New York Central F3 ABA, so very similar to the Santa Fe that we just looked at, but in those New York Central colors. This 1953 triple diesel freight set was slightly less expensive when compared to the Santa Fe passenger set. You could get this set for $70 back in 1953. This train set has a more conventional color palette. I don't know about you, but I often associate the more creative and whimsical looking trains with the vintage post-war era. This one feels more like a prototypical modern set. It's very uniform. When you look at the New York Central locomotives, the New York Central gondola, this Pennsylvania boxcar, and even the caboose that has the Pennsylvania logo on it, but it's part of the New York zone. Very interesting to me. But I like them all, so what can I say? The next batch of train sets that we will look at in this video are all from 1958. So we're jumping ahead a couple of years, we're rounding out the 50s. 2 of my absolute favorite post-war train sets are from 1958. Before we look at those, I have to show you the 1958 4-car steam freight set. Much like the Scout set that we started this video with, this is another one of those budget train sets. I really enjoy these little sets, and this one is a bit more interesting to me. This little set was only $25 when it was brand new, and it fetches a bit more in the collectible market when compared to other vintage Scout-like train sets. This set included this odd flat car with this little truck on it that reads Lionel Ranch. Really unique. The car doesn't really go with much of the other post-war era cars from that time period. Odd enough, I've also seen this set with 2 variations of this red boxcar. On paper, the set should have a red Bosco boxcar, but I've seen it with this Frisco boxcar as well. I believe the Bosco car is the intended car for the set, and somehow these Frisco cars have mixed up. I'm sure someone from the TCA is watching this and is standing by to provide clarity and correction, but I'm not sure, so let me know. I am fascinated with these small train sets. Two of my most prized vintage train sets are from 1958, and both were part of the premium Super O product line. Super O was a, quote, prototypical looking track, unquote, for the post-war era of Lionel. I have to say that because there's nothing prototypical about O-gauge track, right? We have been drawing the ire of 2-rail modelers for years. It's part of the brand. I think I'm gonna build a second layout, like a post-war layout, and use Super O track. Think I should do that? Maybe that could be my 2025 project. My favorite set of the post-war era is this 1958 6-car work train. This set was $100 in 1958, making it the most expensive post-war set in my collection. The set was led by the famous post-war 746, which resembled the Norfolk and Western J-Class. If you were a kid in 1958, this would have been like the ultimate Christmas present or birthday present. or just train set to get. There are two variations of the 746, and they have everything to do with the stripe on the tender. There is a short stripe version and a long stripe version for the tender. The short stripe versions correspond with the original line of 746 locomotives that were built in 1957 and 1958. In 1958, Lionel started striping the full length of the tender. Finding the cars for this train set presented a unique challenge for me. This set has some of the most interesting post-war freight cars, in my opinion. This Alice Chalmers car is just wild. It has this giant heat exchanger and has all these little parts. By little parts, I'm referring to the brake wheels and these little metal standoffs that are holding the heat exchanger. Finding this car with all of the little parts still intact is really tough. If you have one of these with all the parts, you have a gem. Hang on to it. This set also featured the massive double truck generator car. Yet another car that is hard to find with all the parts, because these little pieces right here on the top are often missing or they're broken. This car is long. Definitely the biggest post-war car in my collection. Part of the reason for the expense of this train set is that it included two accessories, the culvert loader and the culvert unloader. Each of these came with the 6342 gondola. Rounding out the set is this really neat crane car and this peculiar work caboose. The work caboose may not look special at first glance, but like most vintage trains, the devil is in the details. If you look more closely, you'll see that this is no ordinary work caboose. This is the Norfolk and Western version that was only built in 1957 and 1958. Fellow collectors, if you have one of these, you have yet another gem. What I find interesting about the collectability and the value of these vintage trains is that it's often these small details. You may see two cars that look exactly the same, but the stamping on one could make all the difference. While the work train is my favorite train set from 1958 and from the post-war era, my second favorite is also from 1958, and that is the 1958 six-car freight set. This was also led by that same Norfolk and Western 746 and came with a slightly lesser price tag at $89.95. Much like the work train, I like this one because of its eclectic mix of freight cars. This set features the iconic horse car with one of the most frustrating accessories known to Lionel history, the horse corral. I think we're going to have to do an accessory video one of these days, but I don't think my ears are ready for that. Have you ever heard a post-war accessory? The buzzing sound. It will destroy your brain. There are a bunch of flat cars in this set. You have the flat car with autos, the flat car with trailers, the operating lumber car, and my favorite, the atomic energy disposal car. This car has these little blinker bulbs in it that still work, and it gives it this really unique appearance. Very, very old school feel watching these bulbs blink, almost like the bulb on an old Christmas tree. The atomic energy car is another one of those rare post-war cars that seems to demand a high price on the secondary market. But it's really cool, especially if you can find one that works. Wrapping up this set is another seemingly normal caboose. But it's not. This fairly unassuming looking caboose is the 6557 smoking caboose. Lionel only made these in 1958 and 1959. As I said just a few moments ago, vintage Lionel trains are often misunderstood. The numbers matter. Make sure you're looking closely at the numbers on your vintage trains. You might have something you never knew you had. The final train set we're going to run is from the 1960s. I couldn't leave out the 1960s. And because I have received so many comments about not having a post-war Berkshire, I got one. What would this world be without your happiness? I aim to serve. I present to you the 7-unit steam freight set from 1964. At $75, this is a bit on the pricey side, and for a good reason. This set is led by the 736 Berkshire. I'm still looking for an original 1946 726 Berkshire. Again, the numbers matter. But that is a video for another day. The 736 Berkshire is very similar to the 726, only it has magnet traction and a couple of other modifications. This 1964 version also has the streamlined Pennsylvania tender, which is not common with the post-war Berkshire. This train set, though, is another one of those classic mixes of colorful cars. My favorite being the dual-level autoloader. This car was really hard to find with the original Lionel cars. I'm pretty sure that the autoloader that came with this set, though, had all red cars. I really liked the different color cars, so I got that one. I also had trouble finding the yellow Lehigh Valley Hopper, so I got this red version. Hey, it's just toy trains. Which train sets were your favorite in this video? And what sets should I be looking for next? Leave me a comment and let me know. Vintage trains give us this view into the past and really bring out the magic. I hope you enjoyed this little glimpse down memory lane. I had a lot of fun making this video. Probably the most fun I've had making a video in a long time. There's just something magical about these old trains. As always, a huge thank you to all of my subscribers and everyone who's been supporting this channel. My name is Chris, and this is RBP Trains. We'll see you next time.